Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic This Week in WordPress and SaaS. This is episode 705. My God, 705. We did have a great guest. Unfortunately, she had a bit of a family emergency. So you just got me and the Andrew Palmer. Andrew looks back on form, actually. He's been recovering from COVID a bit, but you look a bit more perky this week.
Mate, I'm 90%, which is basically about 20% more than before COVID. So it's probably done me some good. I've had a good rest. I had a full 8 hours sleep last night, which was the first time in 3 weeks that I've had an uninterrupted sleep pattern, which is awesome. So yeah, I'm pretty happy, and you know, we're just going to have a little chit chat today about.
We're going to. Yeah, you do look a lot better, Andrew.
Could be the camera.
So send me the check after the show. We're just going to have a general discussion about where WordPress is coming into the second quarter of 2022. We're going to talk about WordPress Europe, WordCamp Europe, just the state of the WordPress ecosystem. It was kind of triggered off by listening to Matt Medea's last podcast. Matt is a great WordPress individual, and we're just going to really just blatantly copy some of the things that he talked about. We're going to be back. We're going for our break now. We've got a couple of messages from our major sponsors. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back, and I'd like to point out, got some great special offers from the sponsors, got some great recommendations of plugins and services that I've utilized or I really believe in. To get these special offers and recommendations, all you have to do is go over to the WP-Tonic/recommendations, and all the goodies are there. So, Andrew, you know, one of the and you could accuse me of it, but I normally only limit it to my Friday show. But sometimes the WordPress community can just be slightly bonkers, can't it? You know, what's been pointed out by yourself, and I noticed also listening to Matt and on Twitter, is that there's been some criticism of WordCamp Europe, hasn't there? I attended it. I know you did. I know you got COVID, and I knew a few people in your party that also got COVID. But you're not negative about it, and nor am I. I actually thought for an event I hadn't run for almost 3 years, I thought they really pulled it off.
I think they did. I think what we've got to celebrate, and Matt Medeiros actually let me do a little retort to his rant about WordPress and whatever, but it was basically in celebration of WordCamp Europe and stuff. So if you go to the WPminute.com, you can have a listen to my 3-minute celebration of WCEU, and the fact that some people basically saved my life because my temperature was just ridiculous. You could have definitely fried a few omelets, and eggs on my back. But the whole point of these things is that there are hundreds of people involved in organizing this. The financial ramifications are massive. The sponsors dig very, very deep in their pockets. It's not even for a smaller plug-in business. You know, just to sponsor the coffee is €1,500. You know, you sponsor the coffee for one day, it costs you €1,500, and it's great. So, you know, latte sponsored by whoever. But you've also got, you know, $4 or $5 grand for a little booze. Then you're talking about the Yoasts of this world that are, you know, it's phenomenal amount of money, 60 grand or 70 grand, GoDaddy spending 60 or 70 grand. Then you've got the events that people put on, like Pagely put on a lovely boat trip, which was pretty much open invite to, you know, a lot of the community. You can only fit 150 people on this boat anyway for safety reasons. You know,
did you get seasick?
I didn't. I didn't get sick at all. Actually, I was quite good. The booze was flowing, and I did. You know, there's a thing that I say that I don't drink, and I honestly don't drink day to day. But when I go to these events, I kind of just go, why not? You know, let's have a drink. And we went out for dinner afterwards with a few other people, which was sponsored by Bertha and WS4. And we bought, a few people a few beers and a few snacks as well late on into the evening as well. So, where everybody dips their hand into their pocket to celebrate the WordPress community and also to network and to, we've met for the first time, John. You and I had a nice walk around the park and had a good little chat and spent some time together at WordCamp Europe. And it's always good to meet people in real life. It was unfortunate that I got COVID. The fortunate bit about it was I got it on the Sunday. I got sick on the Sunday. Obviously, I must have been a little bit ill on the Saturday.
I was a little bit edgy about the whole thing because I didn't want to get COVID and then go to the UK.
Quite.
I wouldn't have done it. I would have stayed in Portugal, but I wanted to go and see my family.
Sure.
I really should have gone to the UK first and then gone to Portugal. I should have. Didn't work that one out. I didn't work that one out. But the problem is, I don't think there's a flight from Porto direct to the US. I think I would have had to say it would have got a bit complicated. But I was a little bit edgy because I was kind of in two camps. I wanted to socialise, and I found it a little bit overwhelming. And I'm a strange mixture of being an outrovert and an introvert. I found it a little bit but also I was a little bit edgy about getting the big C, basically.
And that's the risk we got to take, though, because let's face it, it's out there. We're, most of us or a lot of us are vaccinated. I'm double vaxxed and boosted. I'm not double boosted, but I think the risks for somebody that is vaccinated and boosted they're quite acceptable. I wouldn't like to get it again. I know since talking to people since having it, and this isn't all about me getting COVID, but a lot of people are saying, "What, you've got it again?" Well, I've never had it. So I went to Cloudfest. There were 7,000 people there.
All right.
I've been to many social places. I help people run their restaurants. I even, for instance, Friday tomorrow night, I'm waiting on table because we've got staff shortages at one of the restaurants that I help out. So there's things, and the other day I was delivering pizzas, so it depends what you're doing, because business at the moment, because of COVID and because of the pandemic and let's talk about the airline issues about trying to get to Portugal. Stephanie Hudson took 28 hours. I know that Bob had some problems, even though he was going business class. You had a few issues with delayed flights and lots of people.
It was Paris, but it was still about 20 plus hours it took
that's
me
a big
to get
commitment there. To think, right, I'm in the States, there's no direct flight to Porto. If the airlines had maybe thought about it, or maybe even this is not a criticism of WordCamp Europe, maybe these big events need to get in touch with a few airlines and say, look, we need direct flights, for instance, but for 3,000 people, who knows, or 2,600 people. But what I wanted to celebrate, and what I said in my little WPminute.com podcast, was it was a great time. Thanks to the sponsors, thanks mostly to the volunteers and the organisers. The chief, it takes up their life for 2 years. It's crazy, to have an event of such awesomeness with all the speakers that were there. I know that you attended the speakers. Matt Mullenwood took time out to come out to WC.
And I thought, I've been a little bit critical of Matt a bit. I've tried not to make it personal because maybe I have a little bit, but I didn't really. That wasn't my attention. But I was impressed with his performance. Actually, he looked much more happier. He looked more relaxed, and you could see why. You could see why he was where he is. I know that's a bit strange statement.
Well, no, as the leader of Automatic and the lead developer of WordPress, and now lead of Tumblr, which he's kind of moved on to. Let's not take anything away from Josephina. I think that's how you say her name, but she runs WordPress, really, director of WordPress.
Yeah, she did a good job. I've asked her to come on the show. She said she might consider it.
Just
But
be nice to her, make sure that I'm there with you.
she is rather busy, so I won't hold it against her if she
She is
can't.
busy, but she's got time for Twitter. She's got time to comment on stuff, and unlike me, forgets to turn off his email because it dings every so often. But which I've now done. I've got to check my phones.
So why do you think there was some of this negativity? Why have you got any insight? Is it peculiar to the WordPress community, or is it just where did it? I was really gobsmacked at some of the negativity statements, especially about diversity. There was people from all over the world attending this event.
I think the diversity thing was about how many of the organisers weren't diverse enough. That was the criticism, and it can be fair enough and everything. We've got to be and you can't. The problem is whenever you start talking about diversity and then the criticisms thereof that diversity people have criticised something, and then you criticise the criticism, you end up being the one that gets burnt at the stake. So it's a really dangerous way to, it's a really dangerous thing to get involved in the conversation. But the caveat let me just finish, because otherwise I will get burnt at the stake. The caveat is that when you're actually at the event, you see the true diversity. Codable had a pride night, under the unofficial LGBTQ night. You've got people of all races, of all denominations and all genders there, who are mixing and being sociable and loving each other and sharing and networking and doing business together. And I think what it is, if you look at something from afar and say, I'm not happy with that, that becomes the talking point. But if you are involved in these events, I know that the organisers were doing their very best to make it as inclusive as everything in this new world that we've got, of we have to be inclusive to everyone. And I think that people that criticised it before and didn't go need to start going to these things to realise that actually being an organiser, a volunteer to be an organiser, to realise how difficult it is to organise something like this from a financial perspective, get involved. You want to change stuff, get involved.
Yeah, and you got to realise a lot of these people are volunteers. They're not getting paid for any of this. And some people,
all of them are volunteers.
They're not getting paid for any of this. As somebody that runs a podcast in the WordPress space for the past 7 years, the past 6 months to a year, I've really attempted to get more people on the roundtable show, more diverse guests on the Thursday show. And I have spent a lot extra time, Andrew. I've got some success. I have been a bit frustrated because I've outreached to a lot of people and I've been ghosted to some extent. So I can understand some of the frustration of the organisers of WordCamp.
Sure.
Because it's all right for these people to criticise, but they don't know what was actually how much outreach was done, but they just didn't get a response. Running my little podcast, I think I can see that they probably made a lot of attempts, but it takes two to tango, doesn't it?
They're doing their best, and the criticism on the masking as well you could have hired a company that specializes in having people around there reminding people to wear masks, right? Well, you could have. It's all right having 20/20 vision, but actually, I tweeted after the day, all right, I got COVID and I masked most of the time. There were times when I didn't mask. There was a couple of events I went to that I didn't mask because they were in bars and we were drinking. And I think the criticism of the what I don't like is 20/20 criticism. 20/20 hindsight criticism. You know what? Yeah, that is a great idea. Maybe we can implement that next time. Let's put another $10 on the entry fee because that's what we're going to need to pay for it, right?
Yeah, I just think the entry fee was ridiculously cheap. I think I think you need a balance. You don't want something that's $500 to $1,000, but on the other hand, I thought the ticket price should be a little bit more realistic myself, and that takes a little bit of pressure off the sponsors and that. It's a duality. The masking thing, I thought that was bonkers because I think if you feel something coming on, or you're doing a test, or you're pretty sure that you've got it, I think you've got a responsibility probably not to attend. Stay in your hotel room. If you're not sure, I think you've got a moral responsibility to go and get a test. Or if you've had it and you're recovering, you should wear a mask. The whole point of wearing a mask, in my limited knowledge, Andrew, is it stops you from spreading it. It doesn't stop you from getting it, but it stops you from spreading it.
Yeah, well, there's the anti-mask brigade. I had one at the airport. He said to me, "Why are you wearing a mask?" I said, "None of your business."
Yeah.
Why are you worried about me wearing a mask? Get lost. I'm just not interested in talking to people that slag me off for wearing a mask. It's my choice. I wear a mask. I could have said to him, because I'm pig ugly and I don't want to shock you, but I was I just got over COVID and I was going back to the UK. So that's why I wore a mask. I didn't know whether I was still infectious, and I will do everything I can to protect the people around me, and not. And
I don't really want the moral responsibility of spreading it and maybe giving it to a child and that child dying.
Well, that's why I stayed in Portugal. That's why I stayed in Portugal for an extra week, because I could have flown back. There are no rules. I didn't need to test. In the UK, we can travel with COVID now. We can go outside. We don't need to quarantine. But I was actually not very well, so I just. So
let's get back to the core question, because before we go for the break, and then in the break we're going to be talking about the WordPress, plugins being bought. There's been a lot of activity lately, but so have you come to your own conclusion? This negativity that came out about WordCamp Europe, is it peculiar to the WordPress ecosystem community, or is it just, it would be in any community?
Just humans. We are so quick to criticize. It's just depressing. We need to celebrate more. We've got to realize that we're sitting on a rock that's spinning around in an infinitesimal space, and stop criticizing people and start celebrating people and celebrating the good that these people are doing.
Because I think what you clearly saw at WordCamp is there's two parts of me. I don't want to we're all round the campfire singing Kumbaya. Right, but on the other hand, I don't think there's many. I don't think Squarespace or Wix could get. They sold 2,700, and I think they had 2,500 people attend. I don't think there's many web-based tools that could get a crowd like that from all over the world.
Definitely not. I think that's the lovely thing and the wonder of WordPress. It's a shame that WordPress US has restricted it to 650. It's just madness, and I know why they've done it, but I just don't get it. I mean, Europe was the three European WordCamps that I've been to, the Berlin, Serbia, and this one, were phenomenal events. They bring people together, they celebrate WordPress, and it shows people that haven't been. I met a load of people that had never been to a WordCamp, and they said, "Oh God!"
I thought Matt was a lot more relaxed. I've seen him when it was being held in San Francisco. I attended 3 or 4 before it stopped being, and he looked a lot more relaxed.
Well, he's a few years in now, let's not forget, and he's kind of pretty self-assured about where WordPress is going, what's happening, even though there's little chatter about 0.4% down, but who cares? That will be addressed. But the point is that it's all with WordPress. It is about the community, and it's about business leaders, and it's about sponsors, the big guys, the hosts, the Yoasts of this world, the the pragmatic, the angry creators of this world, you know, the agencies that are interested in WordPress and communicating what they're doing and how they're growing their businesses. So on the back of something that is essentially free, right? So we've all built businesses on the back of WordPress. I am grateful. I have a great deal of gratefulness to WordPress. But before I was Joomla, that was open source as well. So the open source community, in celebration, go to these WordCamps. They're hard work to put on. There's a lot of negotiation with the city. Porto completely supported this WordCamp and thought, right, I'm going to get up to 3,000 new visitors here. There's a bit of tourist stuff going on. How cheap was Porto as well? You know, we were getting in an Uber for €3 and traveling for 15 minutes. It was crazy. You know, it was great. But so it's a whole thing that these things have got to be done. Celebrate rather than denigrate. That's what my message is.
Right. I think that's a good message to go for our middle break. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. I do a weekly newsletter. I do an editorial myself. My editorials, I feel, have been getting better. Been getting a lot of positive feedback. To get this great newsletter. Basically, it has all the latest WordPress news stories that we discuss on the Friday show, plus some tech stories, plus my editorial. To get that, you go to WP-Tonic/newsletter. You sign up for it, and it'll be in your inbox every Monday or every Sunday or Monday. Right, let's go on, Andrew. Let's talk about the WordPress professional market. You know, we've had a lot of activity about plugins being bought. We've had some layoffs as well. Elementor laid off between 50 and 60. I've got mixed feelings about that, but it's their business. You know, had a guest on last week, Andrew, and well, you were there.
I was there for a minute. My internet connection collapsed.
Yeah. You know, he kind of, sometimes you can overthink stuff, and I think I've overthought why hosting companies have bought. I always tried to see that there was some, with Elementor buying Static, that I think that you can clearly understand why they did it. Some of the other plugin, I think I overthought things, because it was really, by our guest last week, he clearly pointed out to me the whole point of buying these plugins was to buy access to the audience.
That's the only thing.
I wasn't that. I thought, yeah, I've been overthinking all this. So where do you've been with Bertha, with other plugins, you've bought some plugins, you've sold some plugins. Where do you see the professional market and the business side being in the second quarter 2002?
I just want to precursor this. My view on Elementor is, and I actually commented on the WP Tavern, they did it. And my opinion is it's driven by investors who want more and more profits out of these companies. So Elementor's had, 50, 60 million thrown at them. Static had 6 million thrown at them. So God knows how much Elementor paid. They must have paid more than that, one would hope. But so they want more and more profits. And I've said, who can blame them in these difficult times of worldwide conflict and political unrest, and people simply not being able to afford to fill their cars, their fridges, and their cupboards? It could also be, though, that these companies are getting ready for an IPO, so to go out onto the stock market, or for somebody else to give them even more money. And it's not uncommon to trim the sails in order to sell the boat for a higher price. And that's the kind of thing. And the other comments on there are kind of similar, and they're kind of critical of people being made redundant. But when you've grown as quickly as Elementor, you need to employ a lot of people. You know, we all remember Ben Pines from there, an excellent marketing director, helped the business grow. I know Yoni myself. I've met him a few times, both online and in real life. And they're very sensible people. They know what they want. They know what they need. And to dump 50 to 60 people is bloody hard work. I've sacked a few people in my life. You know, I've had businesses that have had massive turnover and they've gone down. We've lost a client. We've had to get rid of 30, 40 people. You know, it's not easy to make people redundant. Let me tell you, it's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But one of the main reasons a company will buy, if you're talking bricks and mortar, so when we were selling print companies, I was selling print companies and buying print companies, you're after their client list, nothing else. And you're doing, Robert Maxwell many, many years ago used to get slagged off for asset stripping. He'd go in, buy a printing company for £1, sell off all the gear, take the client list and give it to the Oxford Press, which he owned. So the Oxford Press all of a sudden have got 200 clients, maybe 50 or 60 or even 100 of those clients aren't very good payers, hence the reason for the other business going bust, but you've gained some clients. The thing with WP Engine buying Delicious Brains plugins, you know, ACF is not a particularly good buy because most of the people are on lifetimes, you know, all that kind of stuff, but the other plugins but if ACF have got 1 million people that have paid out, or even 100,000 people that have paid out $100 for a lifetime, that's another 100,000 people or 1,000 people or 10,000 people that WP Engine can sell their services to. Elegant Marketplace was bought by InMotion Hosting. You can guarantee that the 100,000 customers of Elegant Marketplace were marketed for InMotion hosting business, and if they weren't, then InMotion haven't done their job properly. But so it is basically client list acquisition as well as maybe keeping a recurring income. You know, if it's a really good plugin.
Yeah, I think you made some great points there, because I really I kind of overthought it. Sometimes I am a bit of a thinker. I know you're going to be surprised to hear that, Andrew, but I am. But I kind of
think a little bit quicker before you open your mouth sometimes. But apart from that,
I could say the same to you, Andrew. I do honestly think the WP Engine purchase of the Delicious Brains library of plugins, apart from one which they want to focus on, is probably a good purchase because it kind of fits in to the crowd that they bought when they bought Studio Press from the two Bryans. You know, it kind of fits in with that crowd, doesn't it? You can see they would love it, and I think they've been good stewards. So that, you know, it's not. I don't think it's been really a part of your tribe, and it's not been a part of my tribe. I think it's Sally, who's a regular on the Friday round table, and she's got over illness, so she's been more regular recently coming on.
Good.
She's really big in the Genesis Studio Press community. I just thought, I could totally see why they bought it. And you're totally right. You know, because of the lifetime license issue, it probably, with reflection, wasn't a great purchase for Delicious Brains, was it?
No, and the way it was managed, you know, about, you know, basically asking people to either donate or repay for it. You know, I acquired 23 plugins about 18 months ago, and I think 21 of them were previously sold on literally lifetime licenses. So, you know, there's no earnings from them apart from future earning. And now we charge an annual rate and reduced it a little bit and whatever. So it's a dangerous thing because you've got support burdens on there as well. You know, so somebody says, I bought this 3 years ago and we've updated it 5 times. We've made them Visual Builder compatible for Divi.
I never really. I found it a bit of a bizarre situation because, but this is easy for me. I'm just going to put this to you. I found it a bit bizarre, that whole thing, really, because I saw Gutenberg as a golden opportunity to say, well, this was 1.1 pre-Gutenberg, and then we're adding all this additional functionality for Gutenberg. This is going to be a 2.2 product. We're on a 1.1, but you're getting all this additional new functionality to help you deal with Gutenberg. but you're going to have to, and we do a special deal because we really appreciate you being a loyal customer and buying a lifetime for 1.0.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to, here's a special deal, but you are going to have to pay some more money because we got, I just thought there was loads of opportunities to handle it in a more better way. Am I deluding myself?
I agree. I know, I totally agree with you. And the only way to handle taking over a product that has got lifetime licenses is to honor the lifetime licenses without question. It's that simple. Or
you don't have to, but you look a bit of a
no, that's the only
dickhead, won't you? You look a bit dickish, won't you?
Listen, if I'm going to buy your business, John, and you've got people that have done lifetime, Bertha has done lifetime licenses. Anybody that invests in Bertha or buys Bertha eventually will.
And I'm one of them.
Exactly. We'll have to honour that lifetime license because otherwise I'll just say, well, it's not worth selling because I'm not going to get slagged off, and I don't want the person buying me to get slagged off. But the point is that. With Stellar WP buying all these plugins,
so you think you got on it, but I do think there's an adult way. Maybe I've been a little bit patronising. Isn't there a way that they could have said, here's 1.0, but with this Gutenberg, we're going to add all this, and it's a 2.0 situation. I think there was a way of doing it, or am I just...
No, because the deal with the lifetime was and all updates. That was the deal, so you can't move the goalpost just because you sold it. You just can't do it. I mean, and I'm not talking about from a personal perspective. I don't even know the guys at Delicious Brains. I don't really think about them from day to day. But if you're going to buy a plugin or an extension or something that has got a lifetime deal with it, before you buy it, read what that lifetime deal means. If it means all updates for the future and forever, tough shit. And if you want to buy it, that's fine, but that's your decision.
Well, fair enough. Andrew's got, it's fascinating actually. Andrew's got a more tougher, and he's got Bertha, and he's got a more tougher position than me. It's fascinating, isn't it, listeners and viewers?
Lifetime, it's lifetime. That's what it means.
Fair enough. We're going to wrap the podcast part of the show up, folks. I think Andrew, you're up for some bonus content, aren't you, Andrew? You seem quite well.
Always do.
Sorry, Andrew. To watch everything, folks, go over to the WP-Tonic YouTube channel, and you can watch the podcast and the bonus content on the WP-Tonic YouTube channel. And please subscribe. We'll be getting a lot more subscribers to the channel and listeners to the podcast. I think it's become one of the most popular podcasts in the WordPress, and I really appreciate you listeners who have been loyal to the podcast and the new listeners that are joining us on a regular basis. We're going to finish this show. Please, like I say, join us on the YouTube channel. We'll be back with a great guest next week. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
So we've had a lot of activity with... So what did you sense at WordCamp Europe? Where do you think people... Talking to all these people, do you think people are doing more business, staying the same, seeing a decline, or is it a total mixed bag?
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because we've had the pandemic, still got the pandemic. It hasn't gone away, just because.
No, that's true. It's funny. It feels like it has, but it hasn't.
But there's also. Gutenberg, I was speaking to one person who will remain nameless because I've forgotten their name. No other reason. Sorry about that.
No, I do it all the time.
Totally, it's an age thing, and I've got COVID brain as well. But the crux of it is that they converted. They said, right, we're going to go all in on Gutenberg. They're making loads of money. Changed their lives. I mean, they don't have to worry about they're not even using blocks. They're just using Gutenberg and code. So it's almost a retrospective step. So they're using their blocks, and if they can't do anything if they want to do something else, they won't use an add-on or a plugin. They'll just code it in. If they need a a form that needs a signature and produces a PDF, they won't even use a form because they can't be certain of future Gutenberg compatibility with it. So they know if they code it, they'll do it. So, and they've changed. And then you've got people like Angry Creative, who are an agency based in Sweden. They took over Pragmatic a year or two ago. They're WooCommerce specialists. They've completely transitioned to Gutenberg, and they're saying that is the only way to go. But they got problems because they haven't got, WooCommerce hasn't transitioned to blocks either, which is just a bit dumb in my view. I don't know why that's happened. But then we've always got Jamie from Pootle Press. We can use his Woo blocks, and you've got Cadence and stuff like that. But I think it's like when you make a decision to go to a page builder. I think your favorite is Beaver Builder, isn't it, or Elementor?
No, well, it's Elementor for my business. I've got to be clear. I want to move to Gutenberg. I want to move my business and the 100 clients that are with me. I want to move them all to Gutenberg. If they don't want to go on that journey, we'll stay with Elementor. Sure. And I think Elementor has got a consistent business model and pathway, and they seem to know where they want to go. Yeah. So I don't feel I can go down that Gutenberg. I think it's getting close. Yeah. I hope in 6 months. I personally wouldn't have gone down this full editing, but I think it was a time to concentrate on some of the problems, some of the bugs, some of the UX. What you commented about WooCommerce, I think it was time to concentrate on fixing some of the obvious problems, not totally project finishing problems, but they are definitely out there. And I think, but they seem to be determined, and that is the road we're going down. I hope in 6 months time, or by the end of this year, I will be able to look at that and say some of the key people of my team really hate Gutenberg. They're really Elementor people. And when I mention it in a team meeting, that I just get really dirty looks, and I get a fair bit of pushback, Andrew. I've just mentioned a dirty word. And
change is difficult. That's why you have people like what are they called? I can't. These massive consultants. Ernst and Young's and the Capgeminis and the all these massive consultancy firms. They have whole departments to deal with change management. And that's all Gutenberg is. It's change management. It's about, we're not using SAP today. We're going to transition to Oracle. We're not using Oracle. We're going to transfer to Access or whatever it may be. And people as people don't like change. If you're comfortable with something, like I'm very comfortable with the Divi builder, really comfortable with it. Know it kind of pretty much inside out. Build plugins for it. I don't like Elementor, working with it myself, but I love the end results and I love what you can do with it. Yeah. But I don't want to change because it destroys my productivity. So that's maybe what your guys are worried about.
Now, I think there was I do understand where you're coming from, and I think there's an element of that. I think there's been also some justifiable frustrations about the whole where we are. And I think some of it's justified, but some of it isn't. But I just want to put this question because, you still are, to some extent, really linked to the Divi community, even though your direct business connection to it is not so large in some ways. I think I've described it fairly there, but I'm sure you'll put me right. Where do you see Divi going? Because I see when I do see Gutenberg really settling down and really dominating it, I think you can clearly see Elementor and where they're going. What the two that isn't so clear to me is Genesis, Studio Press, WP Engine, and the other really big Quasar community is Divi. Where do you think Genesis and Divi are going to go? How do you think?
Well, WP Engine have been recently kind of slagged off a little bit about not investing in Genesis and Studio Press and leaving it to die a bit. And I think the MD of WP Engine, a woman, or the CEO, said it's not. We're still there. You know, we're still building into it. We're still supporting it. We want it to be, you know, the de facto system that we use for WP Engine, along with other WordPress stuff that we're purchasing, that we're doing. As far as Divi, they'll do an Elementor. You'll have Divi hosting soon. You know, they'll either join up with Google, or they'll join up with somebody else, or they'll build their own servers. Let's not forget that, you know, it's a multi-million-dollar business, Divi. You know, Nick has done a phenomenal job of building that business up into a fantastic offering to DIYers and to professionals as well. So Divi will go.
Can I ask you a quick question about that? Can I ask you a quick question about that? Where, you know, you've spoken to him, you've met him. I've only met him once. Where do you think his greatest strength was? Where do you think he really focused on that enabled him to build such a great business?
Customer service. He's totally 100% customer service. He's absolutely embedded in making sure that his product, if anyone's got a problem with it, they get the best customer service that they can provide. He's invested. He's got over 100 people, I think, working just in customer service. And that's where it's at. If you have a product that is sometimes confusing to people, they can't take the lid off or something, or they can't move a module, and you don't get because people knee-jerk reaction, they'll do it on Facebook, they'll do it on the support channels, they'll do everything to try and fix that thing now. It's impossible for any support service to almost immediately answer now. Ironically, I did it last night. I was in the support system, got an email from somebody, answered the ticket in 30 seconds. They replied, "My God, that was quick." But anyway, he's invested totally in customer service, and that's where you've got to be. You've got to be invested in that, and also development. There's thousands of bugs in WordPress. There's thousands of bugs in Divi, thousands, and Elementor. So there will be people that do something on a system that they're using, whether it's cheap hosting or expensive hosting or great hosting, that will make Divi break or Elementor break or do whatever, or they'll do an update and it will make all your sliders go away. That causes chaos. When you've got 90,000 customers or 700,000 customers and you break every single website because of an update, can you imagine the phone lines and the support lines are burning down, you know?
Yeah, so I think, you know, the way I saw this, Andrew, there's only two ways they can go. Either they do what you've just outlined, the Elementor way, you know, they build their own platform with strong linkage to WordPress, but it's also a kind of, it's a hybrid of a SaaS. They've got one foot in SaaS and they've got one foot in WordPress, right? I call it a hybrid SaaS model. Right, that's how the wording in my own mind. So there's that way of doing it, and you think they're going to do that. I'm not sure they're big enough to do or have the financial resources that Elementor. But
they got more money than Elementor. They got more money than Elementor. They don't need private investment.
Right. The other way of doing it is to build a professional tool set that complement Gutenberg, that is aimed, because really, I don't know if you agree with this, I see these two. I think the Genesis crowd and the Divi are really two different tribes.
Well, they are, definitely.
I see the Genesis as your traditional, and I might be totally wrong. This will be the last part of our discussion, but I just want to see what you feel about where I'm going with this. Is that I see the WP Engine crowd as this more kind of, they've been in WordPress quite a long time. They're established developers, freelancers, agency developers, and they know how to use Genesis. They're part of that tribe. And then you got the Divi, which I feel is the more small town, small agency, regional, freelancer, graphic designer, small agency, building for small businesses to up to the 50 employee type business individual. And it's more aimed, or the power user, but it's aimed at that graphic designer community. And they're very different kind of tribes.
I'd like to see some figures on it, but I reckon there are a few agencies out there making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. I mean, I know that if you look on the Elegant Themes marketplace, there are Divi developers out there turning over 80 grand a month, earning 80 grand a month from a child theme or a plugin or whatever it is. So there's a lot of money within the ecosystem. As far as Divi going on, I'll say why they're going on. Years ago, I developed a thing called Page Builder Cloud with Sean Barton and Layouts Cloud, which is basically allows you to put your layouts into the cloud. So Divi have just developed that. They've now got Divi Cloud, which is fine, which is what we originally called it. It's absolutely fine, and that's an obvious way for them to go. That is, in my view, step one for them to go cloud-based, because that's what's going to happen. And if they don't, I'd be very surprised. But I don't know any secrets or anything. I managed to sit down for a long time with Nick in Berlin, I think it was. We literally I battered him and we talked to each other for a long time, a couple of hours, an hour and a half maybe. And he's a very open guy. Some of the investments he's got, some of the things that he's invested in, he's a very much like the Audrey thing. He's got a little investment thing going on. I'm not going to tell you what he's invested in, but they're very sensible things, and also some wild things. But as a person, he is one of the most intelligent people that I've met in my life. He started this business when he was 15. He started Elegant Themes. He's now probably 34 or 35, maybe a bit younger. He knows exactly which direction this business is going, and the Elegant Themes will go into the cloud, but they'll also have their plugin. They may do a SaaS version as well, where a totally SaaS version, where it's not whatever. You've got a totally.
Well, I do see that's a trend. Would you just to finish?
Sensitive way to go, and then maybe he'll do an IPO.
Yeah, just to finish off. Do you see that as a real concrete trend where I call them hybrid SaaS, where they've got a plugin and they bolt extra services of functionality, but they do that on the SaaS? In some ways, that's what WordPress.com and WordPress.org is, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what the WordPress.com is, a SaaS basically. But the point is Bertha's going to be a hybrid eventually. Yeah. We're going to go SaaS and stuff like that. You've got multi-sites, people who are building multi-sites. Is that a SaaS thing? Yeah, of course it is.
It's a hybrid model,
it's
really.
A hybrid. It's a software as a service. You click a button, there's your website. Now you just fill it with stuff. In motion hosting, and this doesn't get shouted because in motion hosting have had one of the best page builders, BoldGrid, built in to their hosting. It's just been ignored. It's a brilliant page builder. In 10 seconds, literally. It's crazy.
Yeah. Now, something just else come in. We have to wrap it up in a minute, but I really don't want to throw mud, but is what it is. Where I think there's great opportunities but with great opportunities come risks and responsibilities, right? Where this new world of plug-in SaaS hybrid, one of the more disappointing things that's come up the past couple of months is how MemberPress have dealt with that.
Yeah.
I don't think obviously they're looking at the same thing of this new landscape. And what they decided to do was, in my opinion, not really the right way of doing it. They made, I think, in my own opinion, but, it probably won't have any effect. But I think in this new world, you're going to have to make some judgment calls of where the plugin starts and ends, and when your hybrid SaaS system begins and starts. And if you make those choices incorrectly, things can get a little bit difficult.
Well, I agree, and that's one of the reasons I've delayed on the. I've put a pause on the SaaS for Bertha at the moment because for that very reason. But it's a connector, so it's just like an API, connecting an API and making WordPress work. But one of the benefits of these got the Elementor and Divi going cloud, if Divi does go cloud, is that they can actually fork. They not fork per se fork WordPress, but they can actually have their own version of WordPress. So anything that WordPress does to bugger them up, they can say, right, we're not actually going to add that onto the end of it. That's one of the advantages of going the way they've gone cloud. They can say, right, we're just going to stick with version 5.8 or whatever it is. We don't want version 6 with full site editing, and do the necessary security updates. But the world is run on SaaS. All the apps on Apple and Android and everything. Slack. It's a SaaS version.
Well, you've opened because one of the players that seemed to, but is BuddyBoss, because I see the way that they have coped with this is that the website plugin, but if you want an app, you have to buy their SaaS products.
Yeah.
And the nice thing of the way they've done it is they've had some problems, like anything, but in business logic, it's a clear bridge, isn't it?
Yeah.
You got the BuddyBoss plugin and theme, but if you want an app, you have to host with us and buy and pay, and it's a totally separate product to our web-based thing, and it's clear cut, isn't it?
Then you're running two products, so it might be clear cut to the end user, but then you've got a separate development team on the plugin. You've got a separate development team on the SaaS. You can't, and never the two will meet. But so you're talking about a lot. Let me tell you, I know it's expensive developing a plugin. It is horribly expensive. And you have to make a decision at some stage of when you're going to stop spending money before you're making it. And it's tough for individuals. And that's one of the reasons why there is so much investment in the plugin, why these hosting companies are buying plugins. Let's not forget that, a very big Newfold Digital, who had a previous name, bought Yoast. Because the amount of investment that is required to support a staff of 100 plus innovation within a plugin is millions a year. It's a risky old business, So when WP Engine have bought plugins to add to their portfolio, just like Stellar WP bought LearnDash are putting their prices up because why? Because Stellar WP accountants or Liquid Web and Nexus guys, they're run by an accountancy firm, for God's sake. So they've looked at it and gone, you're only charging this. What the hell? How are we going to make any money? So they're actually going to whack up their prices because the costs have increased, or it's a value-based price thing. With everything that we're selling in WordPress, if you build a plugin that requires support, that requires innovation, that requires marketing, you need money.
Yeah, but just to finish off, I do understand you've got you've got two code base, but you're probably going to have that anyway if you're building a real app for Android or iPhone, for the ecosystem. But the nice thing about it is you don't get what I call now the member press problem, where
True.
you're kind of, when you're trying to build a SaaS and you also got a plugin, what do you offer in the plugin and what do you offer in the SaaS? Do you start cutting back what you offer in the plugin? It all gets a bit murky.
No, because we are developing a SaaS, so everything that's going to be in the SaaS will be in the plugin because it will be a connector. So it's not something that with Bertha, that when the SaaS comes along, and let me tell you, it costs money to develop a SaaS. So it's going to be a little while yet. But the point is that everything that's going to be in the SaaS will be available in the plugin in the dashboard of WordPress. And if you want to use the dashboard of the SaaS, that's up to you. But everything that's the decision I've made. If you're using WordPress, you get all of Bertha. If you use SaaS, you get all of Bertha.
Simple I see where you're going. Yes, that's another way.
That's another.
Yeah, it's another way of doing it. All right, I think we had a great chat, actually. We're going to end it now, folks. We'll be back with another great guest next week. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks, mate. See you soon. Ta-ra, bye.